American Teacher on YouTube. And if you haven't subscribed, please click the button below the video. And if you would, give me a thumbs up, and you can leave a comment in the box below. Today's topic is about living in Taiwan, and the benefits and a few negatives about living in Taiwan. So I've been living in Taiwan a pretty long time, and I have to say that my view of Taiwan is colored by the fact that I grew up in a small town. So a lot of things that are different to me could be due to the fact that I went from living in a very small town to a city about 450,000 people. So yeah, there's a lot of benefits to living in Taiwan. Probably one of the best is the crime rate. Taiwan's crime rate is much, much lower than the US. According to nationmaster.com, the US has 4 times more crime overall than Taiwan. It has 46 times more marijuana use than Taiwan. America has 90% more opiate use than Taiwan. 83.33% of people surveyed in Taiwan feel safe walking alone at nighttime, whereas only 41.84% of the people in the US reported feeling safe walking alone at night. So yeah, given the fact that the population density is so high in Taiwan, that's amazing that the crime rate is so low and that people feel so safe walking by themselves at night. Okay, fear of violent hate crime is only 9.72% in Taiwan, whereas it's 32.55% in the US. Fear of being attacked is 16.67% in Taiwan, whereas it's 42.08% in the US. Let's see, prisoners. The US has 36 times more prisoners per capita than Taiwan. Violent gun crime is in America is 19 times more than in the US, than in Taiwan. So violent gun crime is 19 times higher in the US than in Taiwan. And violent crime overall, the US has 74% more violent crime than Taiwan. So yeah, I do feel safe here. I've never walked down the street and heard a gunshot in Taiwan. I don't even think about it. Of course, guns are outlawed in Taiwan for private citizens. So private citizens are not allowed to own a gun here. That could be a problem if China decides to invade. But as far as the crime rate, I think it helps tremendously. And Taiwan's crime rate is a fraction of the US crime rate. And I've never felt unsafe here. Okay, another reason Taiwan is a great place to live is the low cost of living. And so when you look at the nation-mastered statistics, the average monthly disposable income in the US is about 2 times more than in Taiwan. But when you look at the cost of living, you'll see why. Basic utilities. The average for basic utilities per month is 2 times higher in the US than in Taiwan. I know for a fact, my partner and I, we live in a small apartment. Our electricity bill, running the air conditioner all the time in the summer, is about, at its highest, it's about $100 US a month for the two of us. Let's see, cinema ticket price is 12% more in the US than in Taiwan. Clothing and shoe prices are 4% more in the US than in Taiwan. Internet, and this is where I've noticed a huge difference. In Taiwan, internet is much, much cheaper. So let's see, in America, broadband internet is about, on average, 2 times more than in Taiwan. It costs 2 times more per month. Cigarettes, now this might not appeal to everybody, but cigarettes cost 2 times more in the US than in Taiwan. Eggs cost, a carton of eggs, a dozen eggs cost 28% more in the US than in Taiwan. Loaf of bread costs more, 61% more in the US than Taiwan. So bread is much, much more expensive in the US. Now this is one where it's actually cheaper in America. A liter of milk in Taiwan is actually 3 times more than in the US. And the reason is Taiwanese people don't really have cereal for breakfast. And they don't drink a whole lot of cow's milk. They drink soy milk, but not so much cow's milk. So milk is about 3 times more expensive here than in the US. I actually think not eating cereal for breakfast is much healthier because you get a bunch of carbs when you eat, a bunch of empty calories when you eat cereal for breakfast. Okay, rice, of course, is 12% more in the US than in Taiwan, the cost of rice. There's actually a rice paddy just across the street from my house here. Real estate prices. The average rent in America is 90% more than in the US than in Taiwan. And the price of a new car is about 1% more in the US than in Taiwan. So these are just a few of the reasons. They point out that a meal at a cheap restaurant chain like McDonald's is 47% more expensive in the US than in Taiwan. The average grocery cost in the US is 12% more than in Taiwan. So you get the picture. You can save a lot of money living here in Taiwan. And it's actually safer living here than in the US. Another thing is we don't have the tipping culture here in Taiwan, and that saves a lot of money when you go out on dates and things like that. At restaurants, you don't tip. If you try to tip somebody, they'll give the money back to you because tipping is just not done here. There are a few high-end restaurants that will add like 10% to your bill, but they'll tell you up front. They'll have a sign at the front telling you that they're going to add 10% for a service charge. But in general, most places do not charge for tips. And the tipping culture in America has gotten out of hand. I mean, it's gotten to where now they expect around 20% of your entire bill to go towards tips, and what they've done is they've pitted the poor working class people against the other working class people who work as servers in restaurants, and so you're spending in America you're spending a huge amount of money just to go out to eat, whereas in Taiwan we don't think twice about going out to eat. Back before the latest COVID outbreak, we did it at least 2 times a week. We went out to eat, and it was cheap. But okay, some other benefits of living in Taiwan is the national health insurance system. I had an adult student in one of my classes, and his daughter was attending university in Texas. And he was Taiwanese, of course, and she was Taiwanese. And one day he came to class looking dejected, and I asked him what was wrong, and he said, my daughter was sick. And I said, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. He said, it was late at night, and she had a stomach ache, and I was thinking, uh-oh, please tell me she didn't go to the emergency room, because I've had to do this in America before. I know how expensive it is. And the next thing he told me was she went to the emergency room, and of course they gave her some medicine for upset stomach, and they charged over $1,000 US. And he was blown away, because the same trip to the emergency room in Taiwan would run you $5 to $10 US, and including medicine. So $5 to $10 US here in Taiwan versus over $1,000 in the US. So he was just, I mean, $1,000 just for a few minutes in the emergency room. And I said, well, that's America's healthcare system. That's the way things work there. If you don't have insurance, you have to pay through the nose. And so people in Taiwan don't think twice about going to see a doctor when they're sick, because they're not going to break the bank. And insurance is subsidized. The national insurance is subsidized by the government. And, well, you might be saying, there must be waiting lists for months to go see the doctor, or you can only see one certain doctor and you can't change doctors. In Taiwan, that's not true. You can see any doctor you want to. One night I had some bronchitis, and my class I taught a class. My class was just across the street from an ENT specialist. I didn't need a referral. I walked across the street to the ENT doctor and was seen within the hour, and had medicine, was diagnosed and had medicine fairly quickly. So that's not a problem here. There's no waiting list to see the doctor, and you can see pretty much any doctor you want to. The cost of the healthcare insurance is ridiculously low. I even forget exactly how much it is, because they take it out of my paycheck. But it's less than what an American would pay for one person 1 month of insurance, and that's for the whole year. So the healthcare system is wonderful, and in most cities, like I live in Hsinchu, if you go to a hospital in the city, the doctors speak English at the hospital, and so they can understand you when you speak English. A lot of them actually studied in the United States. So healthcare is amazing, and that could be one reason alone for living in Taiwan. There are just so many things. Real estate taxes are minuscule compared to the U.S. Like I said, utilities are much less. So there are many good reasons to come to Taiwan. And the people here have not politicized COVID, which is amazing, because in America, if you wear a mask, or if you think people should get the vaccine, you're automatically branded as being political. And in Taiwan, it's different. Everybody wears masks. They don't argue with each other about wearing masks. Whenever vaccines become available, that's a problem we've had, because China has tried to force Taiwan to go through the Chinese government to get vaccines, which Taiwan doesn't want to be beholden to the Chinese government, because the Chinese government is the enemy of Taiwan right now. So we don't have enough vaccines right now, but as soon as vaccines become available, people in Taiwan sign up immediately. There's a waiting list of people wanting to get vaccines. Whereas in America, up to a third of the population doesn't want a vaccine. They've bought into all this bull that the vaccine is going to kill you, is designed by Bill Gates to control the population, all this conspiracy crap. And that hysteria hasn't taken hold here in Taiwan. It's like Taiwan is the land of reason, and America has become the land of conspiracy. But I have to also mention a few of the detriments, the negatives of living in Taiwan, and there are some. But overall, they're far outweighed by the benefits. Some of the negatives are, I would say, the traffic. And now, again, I came from a small town, so it could be that the traffic is due to living in a bigger city. But Taiwanese people in general don't obey traffic laws as much as people in some Western countries. And I think it's partly due to the fact there's not as many traffic police. The law is not as enforced as stringently in Taiwan as in the U.S. So you have to be careful. You have to drive defensively every day. Going down the street, I'll see dozens of moving violations every day, and sometimes I'll see at least one traffic accident every day. So it is dangerous. I've actually been in a one-person accident. This happened on my scooter. I was driving down the road too quickly, and the tire blew out on my scooter, and I slid down, hurt my shoulder. But then I got a CT scan at the hospital for almost nothing, and it turned out to be okay. But yeah, the weather is wonderful. Where I live in Hsinchu, it almost never gets down below 49 degrees Fahrenheit. So you don't spend much on heating. In fact, most Taiwanese people don't have heaters. On an island where the humidity can get to like 90%, and at 49 degrees, 90% humidity, that's the kind of clammy cold that crawls up in the sheets with you at night, and you really need a heater in the wintertime. I mean, if you're used to living in a Western country like the U.S. So I ended up getting a heat pump, and Taiwan is perfect for a heat pump because the temperature doesn't get low enough that the emergency heater kicks in, and so you don't spend so much money on heat. The summers are a little bit longer than in the U.S., and I'd say the temperature is about the same as southern Tennessee in the summer, but the summer in Tennessee is much shorter than in Taiwan. We usually don't get to turn off the air conditioner until late October or early November. So the heat hangs around quite a bit longer. And the humidity stays pretty high, so you really need a dehumidifier, or you're going to get mold probably in your house. It will smell musty. So if you move here, one of the first things you need to do is get a dehumidifier. Also, if you live close to the ocean like Hsinchu on the west coast, you'll get a lot of wind. Hsinchu is named the Windy City of Taiwan, and so there's a lot of wind. That combined with the humidity in the winter can make it feel a lot colder than it is, especially if you're riding a scooter. So bundle up if you're riding a scooter. So yeah, negatives, I would say humidity. Of course, you're living on an island. Traffic. The houses don't have insulation, so a lot of your heating and cooling costs come from not having insulation. But again, that's the utilities are cheaper here. Earthquakes. We have frequent earthquakes. Most of them are pretty small, but they can be a little bit unnerving. You might get shaken a little bit. Typhoons. Here on the West Coast, we're protected by the Central Mountain Range, so the only thing we have to worry about is torrential rain on this side. And the winds usually don't do a whole lot of damage to Shinju. Typhoons come in from the east, from the Pacific Ocean, and so by the time they cross over the Central Mountain Range in Taiwan, they've lost most of their power. There are a lot of customs that are much, much different. I would say culture is about night and day different in Taiwan compared to the U.S. There are a lot of superstitions that we don't have. There are superstitions about the way you place your chopsticks. If you put your chopsticks sticking out of your rice, that is considered an offering for the dead and is considered inauspicious. So if you leave your chopsticks sticking in your rice, someone will probably come along and take them out for you. There are also, other, and it varies from person to person. Usually the younger people don't follow the superstitions as much as the older people, but there are quite a few superstitions. They have Ghost Month in August, usually around August, and people usually don't make big purchases during that time in Taiwan. Like they don't usually buy houses during Ghost Month. So yeah, but overall, like I said, Taiwan is a great place to live. If you have children, they don't have government-sponsored kindergarten here. They do have it, but they only have a very limited number of spaces, and so most of the time you have to pay to send your child to a private kindergarten, which is expensive. So that's something Taiwan needs to work on, is public kindergarten. And also schools. Children are expected to go to school much, much later in Taiwan than they are in the U.S. And I don't think it's healthy for children. So personally, I wouldn't want my children going to school in Taiwan, because I think it stifles creativity to force them to go to school for such a long period of time. Also, there's too much stress put on tests here in Taiwan. They have entrance exams for high school. You have to take an entrance exam to get into a good high school. You have to take entrance exams for university, and they are much more stringent. They start studying for over a year before they take the exams. So they place a lot of emphasis on tests, and they're very competitive. They post the grades of each student so everyone can see them, and so parents will compare their children to other children in the class, and so it's an extremely competitive environment in schools here, which I really don't think is psychologically good for the children. But overall, living in Taiwan is very good, and I think I've eaten healthier and lived a healthier lifestyle because of living here. Like I said, people here don't eat cereal. They don't eat as many snacks, so there's not as much choice when you go to the junk food aisle in Taiwan. And so that has definitely had an influence on my diet, and probably the reason why I've been able to stay around 160 pounds and lower my blood pressure. So yeah, living in Taiwan is great. There are a lot of good reasons to live here. If I would advise you, if you want to live here, most of the jobs they're seeking are for engineers or people working in the high-tech industry, and also English teaching. They have a goal of becoming having English as a second language in Taiwan by like 2035. So they're going to need to hire a lot of English teachers. But to teach in a private school, you need to, like a cram school, you need to have a 4-year college degree, a 4-year university degree in the U.S., from the U.S., or maybe 3 years in the U.K. And you need, if you want to teach in a public school, you actually have to be a licensed teacher, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, there's a lot of English teaching jobs open, and they pay pretty well, fairly decently. Maybe not as good as a similar position in the U.S., but like I said, you'll save a lot of money by living here. So if you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the box below. Give me a thumbs up, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.